Welcome back, team, to episode 2 of Cody Literacy Learning. Wow. Today we are going to be looking at the structure of a recount. Now, what is the structure, you might say? The structure of a recount is kind of like making a good sandwich. Alright, we always start with a nice base, then you load it up with all your goodies. I like tomatoes, I love tomatoes, or pickles, so just load it all up there, bit of cheese, and then top it all off with your end, so the conclusion of your recount. And that, my friends, is a really good structure. Good base, or a good beginning. Loads of goodies through the middle that makes it nice and delicious. Top it off with a good end. This is a good sandwich. Alright, let's get on to it. Let's have a look at what the structure of a recount looks like. Alrighty, welcome back, Recounts, episode 2. So let's recap last episode. What did we learn? We learnt about author's purpose. So remember, an author does 3 things. They either try to persuade, inform, or entertain their reader. So a really good writer knows how to do each of these, and whatever their purpose is, they know how to achieve it. Alright. Looking ahead, today's focus, structure. So we're focusing on the structure of a recount. Alright, how does it begin? How do we lay out our events? And then how do we finish? So the structure is how to write it, how to set it out. So our WALT, remember, is to identify and understand the purpose, structure, and language features of a recount. Today we're focusing on the structure. So what is the structure of a recount? How does it begin? So who is it about? What? When? Where? Why? How are the different ideas that the writer talks about grouped together? And how does it end? So I want you to stop here, copy the WALT again, and write the questions above on structure. And then we're going to read this recount again and try and answer the questions. So if you remember this recount from last time, it's called the solar eclipse. Right, so as we read, we're going to try and focus on the structure. How does it begin? How do each of the supporting paragraphs flow on from the next? And how does it end? Right? So as we can see, all good recounts begin with an introduction. And in the introduction, it needs to explain who was involved, what happened, when did it happen, where did it happen, and why they were there or why it was happening. Alright, so let's read this introduction and see if we can figure those things out. Last Friday, my 4 friends and I rode our bikes down to the lighthouse to watch the solar eclipse. We didn't want holes burnt in our eyeballs, so we took a solar projector we had made out of cardboard and aluminium foil. That way, we wouldn't have to look directly at the eclipse. Can we figure out who was involved? Good, so the author says, my 4 friends and I. So that tells us who was involved. Does it tell us what happened or what they did? Yes, it said, my 4 friends and I rode our bikes down to the lighthouse to watch the solar eclipse. When did it happen? Well, if we look at the very first words in the paragraph, it says last Friday. So we know when it happened. Does it tell us where it happened? Well, it tells us that they went down to the lighthouse, doesn't it? Does it tell us why? Yeah, we know why. Because they went to watch the solar eclipse. Right? And for anyone that knows what a solar eclipse, it's when the moon passes in front of the sun during the day and it blocks out the sun. Cool. So it's got a really good introduction because it explains who, what, when, where, why. Let's move on. How are the different ideas that the writer talks about grouped together? So as we can see, the supporting paragraphs, they explain more information about the event in the order that they happened. So we can see the following paragraphs are linked together, using those time conjunction words again. So we arrived at 10 a.m. and it seemed like half the town was already there, as well as a heap of people we had never seen before. Then the next paragraphs, after setting up our gear, we found a flat rock to lie on and just wait. Then the next paragraph, about an hour later, someone yelled out, "Contact!" As time went on, the light began to fade and everything around us lost its sparkle. An hour and a half after it started, the eclipse was total. Then the sparkling diamond of light flared on the sun and the eclipse began to recede. So each paragraph explains more information about what happened at the event, but it's in order. That's a really important thing. So the introduction starts it, and then each paragraph after that gives some more information as to what they did leading up to the eclipse actually happening towards the end. And right at the end, we can see it finishes with a conclusion. So the conclusion ends the text and includes a personal opinion or feel. So at the very last line, it tells us how the author felt about this day. They said, "It was an awesome day I will never forget." It's a personal opinion or feeling. So let's go back to our questions. Have we answered how does it begin? Yes, it begins with an introduction that explains who, what, when, where, and why. Does it tell us how the ideas are grouped together? Yeah, well, they're grouped together using paragraphs with time conjunction words that tell us the events in order. So for the introduction, last Friday. Next paragraph, we arrived at 10 a.m. After that, in the next paragraph, an hour later, as time went on. All these different time conjunctions, ways to start a sentence or a paragraph, helps to link the events as they happened throughout the recount. How does it end? Well, it gives us a conclusion that states what happened at the end and a bit of a personal opinion. Let's look at our literacy recount. Remember, we're identifying and understanding the purpose, structure, and language features of a recount. So the structure of a recount is an introduction. So a good recount starts with an introductory paragraph that tells us who, what, when, where, and why the event happened. Then it follows on with a sequence of events, so more paragraphs. The following paragraphs are written in the order that they happened, using time conjunctions at the beginning of each paragraph. Remember, time conjunctions can be words like first, next, after, then, during, at that very moment, yesterday, last week, finally, lastly. They can also be dates, so in 1992, or on Tuesday the 15th. And a good recount always has a conclusion at the end. So it's finished with one final paragraph or a sentence stating how the author felt about the event or how the event ended. So a bit of a personal opinion. Right, pause here. I want you to copy down the notes above. Now continue and read the recount story coming up next. Can you identify the structure of the text? Does the author follow the right structure? How do you know? Ka pai tō mahi. Well done. Tune in tomorrow for episode 3 when we look at the final part of a recount, the language features. Ka kite anō.